Hey guys, I'm Exteria, and this is going to be a lot different than my normal videos because we have an upcoming tournament for both sub-regional and actual regionals tournament coming up soon. So I'm going to spend a lot more time on TFT itself instead of trying to edit videos. With that said, I'm going to teach you guys how to play Syndra, since this meta is all about Syndra in pack 14.15. Starting off with our items, the main carry is going to be Syndra, and her best in slot is having Spirit Sojourn. This is mandatory. If you don't build this, she's not a champion. And Nashor's Tooth is a very good item with Spirit Sojourn because it gives you more attack speed and it gives you some AP so you can keep casting more and more. And to amplify your damage, having a death cap would help that to give you more damage. And higher elo, there is a different way that people do build her, which is Spirit Sojourn and Rage Blade. The reason why is because of the way how her ability works. The more she casts, the more stacks you get, and then the more stacks you get, the more damage you will get for your ability. So that's the reason why higher elo players like to play for just attack speed or mana regen instead of just full damage, because you'll get that damage later on in the game. And another thing to note is most people would build Rage Blade just for a first item. If you have a Syndra drop and it's your first item to slam, it's the best thing to do because most of the time you can't get a Spirit Sojourn on start. So if you have a Rage Blade start instead, it'll make Syndra cast more so you can get the stacks right away. But if you don't have a single Syndra yet before you hit level 6, just doing this regular BIS build would be better because you're not going to get enough stacks anyways, and this will give you the most damage in the long run. And the best alternative items, like I said, Rage Blade before, is only good unless you have a Syndra drop, and if it's your first item to slam, you should do it. Adaptive Helm, kind of the same idea. This is not a replacement for Spirit Sojourn. This is just an additional to Spirit Sojourn, so you can get more mana to get more cast. And then red buff is kind of similar to Rage Blade, but this one just gives you anti-heal and pretty decent amount of attack speed stats. You can use Merlicon, but this item would be better because it gives you more attack speed. And for those of you that still don't understand what I mean by attack speed good on Syndra, the more you attack, the more you can cast, because when you keep autoing, it gives you a lot of mana back. So therefore, attack speed is really good on Syndra. And then her best orange artifacts hands down is Gambler's Blade. This is really high win rate because it gives you a lot of attack speed and it has a lot of AP. Mana Zane's a good alternative to Spirit Sojourn-ish, but you still want Spirit Sojourn and Mana Zane so you can keep casting a lot so you get those stacks. A kind of good Rage Blade substitute would be Sniper's Focus because this gives you a lot of attack speed and some damage. For your sub carries, depending on what version of Syndra you're going to be playing, if you play for Karma sub carry, blue buff plus an anti-heal, unless you already have it on Syndra, then you don't need it. But any AP items after that is fine, as long as you have like a mana item for it, like blue buff or Spirit Sojourn. And then Cassiopeia thrives on attack speed, so having like double Rage Blade and Gunblade would be fine. And these are not mandatory items on them. Most of the time you can't build these items on them anyways, but these are like the best items you can put on them if you were to play them first sub carry. And then for anyone who's gonna be your main tank, the best tank items to put on this meta would be like Declaw, Steadfast Heart, Redemption, which does give you regen, or if you want flat health stats, then Warmongs is fine for that. Any other tank items would be good, it's just these ones are the best ones for the current meta. And the two to highlight to slam if you want to win rounds would be Declaw and Steadfast Heart. These two are just super powerful right now together. And for support items, the best one you could take is Chalice, Big Gem, Locket, Moonstone, and the Redemption substitute would be Radiant Virtue. For the units you want to throw in for early game, the best opener would be Ziggs with like a Spirit Sojourn, because Sojourn is actually the best item on Syndra. So you can just play something like this where you have 2 Vanguard and then +1 Honeymancy to get that 3 Honeymancy and 2 Vanguard. If you want to force for Syndra at level 6, this is the strongest way to do it. But if you get Syndra on drop, if you can't get a Spirit Sojourn, Rage Blade is a good substitute for that. And you just play literally just straight up vertical Eldritch and then plus whatever tanks you can fit in. If you have Lilies too, then Shapeshifter would be the best with like Jace. Or if you have a Mordekaiser drop, you can just get rid of Ashe and then just throw in +1 Vanguard, and then Elise would be good because she's an extra tank. Essentially, you can do anything as your opener as long as you just know what you're doing to win streak. But if you're playing Lulu streak, then just open fort, just save money. So when you hit 6, just roll down for Syndra. Now we're gonna move on to one of the main comps would be Syndra with Shapeshifters. This is one of the easiest like reroll version of Syndra because there's 3 2-cost units, which is Shyvana, Cassiopeia, and Syndra. You can 3-star these 3 really easily if you want to, but the main one you want to 3-star is Syndra, and then once you 3-star her, just move on to level 8, so you can either 3-star Nico or Swain as a main tank. If you have Shyvana 3, you can put main tank items on her, but I would prefer just to have the main tank items on Nico 2 or Swain 2 because they're a lot better than Shyvana. You can just throw these clothes on her, would be a lot better to do. Sorry for that, wow. That was just my phone notification. And this is hands down the strongest version of Syndra because you don't have to 3-star anything. You can 2-star all this and just move on to level 8, which is Syndra and 4 Vanguards. But though this version, because you have to kind of roll-ish at level 6, if you do decide to roll down for 3 stars, you can 3-star Syndra, Rumble, or Galio, and that's basically about it for the 3 stars. If you can hit it, you can also 3-star Mordekaiser if you want to, but essentially this would be your board for like the level 6 because you kind of need that Eldritch in, which is the reason why Elise is in, and since Elise is a shapeshifter, having Jace would be good for that. So this is like to sustain you. This is not like your actual final board. Your final board will look more like this, where you have 4 Vanguards and then you have Nami as the Eldritch unit, and since Nami's a mage, Galio is also a mage, you also throw in a Vex, and since Vex is a Chrono, you throw in a Karma, and Karma also gives you a counter with Syndra. This is the most capped version of the board, and when you hit level 9, you can just throw out Xerath because you get the Arcana with Tom Kench. And then I would say the best main tank would be Rumble because he has anti-heal. So the good thing about this comp is you have Magic Resist Shred with Syndra, and you have Anti-Heal with Rumble. And then like I said earlier, the two best tank counts would be like Declaw, Steadfast Heart. If you can't 3-star any of them, it's fine. This will actually carry you to at least the top 4. And a side thing to note would be that Cassiopeia is a bait for the secondary Incanter. If you can't find Karma, Ziggs is better. Just saying. And then the last version of playing Syndra would be with Wukong. This is the case if you have a lot of Gargoyle Stone Plates. This will be the way to go. And the way how you play this comp is when you hit 7, just ignore the Morgana Emilio because you can't hit them until like level 8-ish unless you get lucky at 7. You play the rest of the units. And the idea is to have all Preserver and a Wukong. So Preserver would infinitely heal Wukong. Don't have double Gargoyle Stone Plate, he won't survive. So you have to have these items to play this version. And the thing to know about this comp is you roll at 7 compared to the other two comps, you roll at 6 because you want a 3-star Wukong no matter what for this comp. Alright, now we're going to move on to the augments, and this looks kind of messy, but I will explain it. Because your main carry is going to be Syndra, you have to click on these augments like almost no matter what. These are the strongest augments honor, which is defensive arts, Encounter Crest, Combat Caster, and Spellblades. The thing to note about Encounter Crest is you don't technically need to play 4 Encounter. The reason why you pick this augment up is because you get a +1 Syndra, and it'll make you stabilize to not have an Encounter on the board, and you can just use this on anyone else. But when you hit level 8, then you technically play 3 Encounters. If you want to play for 4, go for it if you're strong enough for it. If your board's too weak, then don't do 4, just stick with 3. And then for Vanguard, Shields Up is a very powerful augment for that Vanguard version. And I would say Vanguard Crest is kind of a bait because if you play 6 Vanguard, it doesn't really change much. And the 4 Vanguards you play on the board are the most powerful ones. But unless you want to get rid of Rumble, that's up to you. I would prefer to keep Rumble in because of his anti-heal. Then you can have that Vanguard Crest if you don't like Rumble. If you're playing for the Shapeshifter version, Eternal Growth and Shapeshifter Crest is really good. Just throw this augment on Cassiopeia and you'll be fine. If you're playing for the Wukong version, Spin the Wind is really good. But you do have to play the items differently. You technically still need like 1 Gargoyle Stone Plate, but you could put like a Bloodthirster on top of that. Maybe a Titans or even a Declaw would be good enough. As long as you have 1 Gargoyle Stone Plate and then a Bloodthirster, this augment is really powerful for Wukong. And it says you're playing mostly the Preserver style with Wukong. Preserver Crest is very strong for that because if you have 5 Preserver, this Wukong will never die. And Aggressive Preservation is very strong with Preservers overall. And then these are just strongest like meta augments to take overall. If you don't have any of these other augments, these are really good to click on, which is Support Golem 1 and 2. Very powerful, has one of the highest win rates. Just click it if you don't have anything good. Immovable Object is also another very strong win rate augment. This augment is very, very powerful because it makes everything tanky. And then since you're playing reroll, Prismatic Ticket and Hero Grab Bag is really good for that to finish off your level 3s if you're playing the reroll route. If you're not playing reroll, then don't do it. Too Healthy is very powerful for Syndra overall because you have a lot of 2-cost units on the board, so you get a lot of health back. And then Item Collector is one of the strongest augments overall for flexibility because if you have unique items on the board, you get a lot of stats with this. Before I end it off, if you like this type of content, consider subscribing to me and hitting that like button. That means a lot to me because it'll help me keep making more content later down the line. And that's it for my Syndra comp guide. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comment section down below. I'll try to answer as fast as I can and to the best of my capabilities. Until then, I'll see you guys later.